Welcome back, everybody. Joining me now is Stephen Solomon. He recently returned from a trip to Ukraine. He's working on a documentary about what he learned when he was there. So here's a little preview of what does freedom cost.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Stephen Solomon. Over the past few years, the war in Ukraine has captivated the world, but it's often been reduced to headlines, statistics, or political talking points. What's often missing are the real stories, the ones that show the human cost of freedom.
They took all of our scripture and Christian literature out into the street in front of our building and burned it all.
I see many kids who dead in Kherson, near Kherson. It's more difficult when kids cry or lost hand or leg.
But he always turns around and he cries and he's asking his mom, "Where is my dad?"
This is the story of the Ukrainian people, told through their eyes. And it's a story we all need to hear. This is about answering the question, what does freedom cost?
Would you please welcome former military intelligence agent and host of the Nashville Encounter on Bot Radio, Stephen Solomon. Stephen, welcome. Good to have you. Thank you. We are kind of covering the hot spots of the globe here on this Christmas show. We just talked to Melissa about Israel and all that's happening there. But the other place that is in the news every single day is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. When you went there, what did you see? And what was it that most struck you that we're not hearing here in the U.S.?
Well, you know, it's really interesting because I went over there looking for a few stories and I found a documentary. It really surprised me just how tired the people are.
Yeah.
They're worn out. You have to realize Putin invaded 3 years ago and he expected this thing to end almost immediately. He went after Kyiv, if everyone remembers at the beginning.
Yeah.
He went towards the capital and then they got Western support and they fought him off, and he kind of backed off and went to the eastern region of the country. But this thing's been going for quite a while. These people have been fighting war, and it's not like a war in another country. It's at home. It's where they're living. So it's a different kind of war than maybe people in America are used to, where we go out and we fight wars like I did, you know, in Afghanistan and things like that. This is literally at their front door. So it's a different kind of war for them. And everyone's kind of been in war mode. I mean, everybody's in war mode. Even the animals are walking around in formation. You walk by chickens and salute them, you know.
But Stephen, a lot of Americans say Ukraine doesn't matter to us. There's nothing that is there that should concern us as Americans. So is there something that Americans need to know? And is there a reason that Americans should be interested in what's taking place there?
I totally get it. I mean, the fatigue is real. We have been pumping so much money. I mean, I'm an Army vet, right?
Yeah.
So I've deployed. I've literally put my life on the line for our country. I get the sacrifice. And I understand also when we've got our own vets that can't be housed, right? I mean, we've got so many things going on in the United States. I think a lot of people are weary of sending so much money to Ukraine. We kind of said, okay, enough is enough. But if there is something that we could pull away from it, it's that, you know, when you look at the history of Russia and Ukraine, I think if you ask for one big takeaway, it's in 1994, maybe a little history nerd stuff here, right?
Yeah.
In 1994, there was what was called the Budapest Memorandum, where the United States, the UK, Russia, and Ukraine signed this agreement after the fall of the Soviet Union. And the Ukrainians said, okay, we'll give up our nukes, but in exchange, we want protection from Russia. And so the US and the UK said, sure, we got your back. Give up your nukes. You guys can't handle them. They're hard to maintain. It's dangerous. Give them up. We'll protect you. And then 20 years later, 2014, Russia violated the Budapest Memorandum. And so it became one of these scenarios where the US and the UK didn't really do anything. Russia got more emboldened. And then, as we saw 3 years ago, they got even more emboldened. So it's a country that we had agreed we'd look out for, but times come and times change, and people make their own decisions as generations go by.
Hundreds of thousands of people have died in that conflict.
Yeah.
And it has gone on, as you said, way longer than anyone ever imagined, because people thought Russia, with its military strength and power, would crush Ukraine. But the Ukrainians really stood up and fought back in a way that was never expected. Is there a future there, and what is that future?
There is a future. I mean, the future is yet to be determined, Governor. It's going to be one of these things where now President Trump, your new boss, right? He's going to have to make some decisions on funding, whether the U.S. keeps supplying weaponry and things of that nature there, or if he pulls it back. And that's going to be a big player in what happens here. I do know this. Just like I saw it in the people in Afghanistan, the people in Iraq, I saw it in the same people in Ukraine. They want to be free. They want to be free. And so the whole documentary's purpose was get over there and talk to the people. You know, I didn't want to hear the propaganda from Russia. I didn't want to hear the propaganda from Ukraine. Quite frankly, I didn't want to hear the propaganda from the Biden administration.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what the people were doing and the people were saying. And the people want to be free.
You titled this The Cost of Freedom. What is the cost of freedom for the Ukrainian people?
Lives.
Honestly, I think that's the answer for everybody. If you want to be free, you truly want it, you have to be willing to give up everything for it. Freedom is not one of these things that you just kind of get, and maybe you get a little bit of freedom in that. If you truly want freedom, you have to fight for it. And if somebody wants to take it from you, you have to be willing to give it all or give it up.
Stephen, what was the biggest takeaway from your experience being there, putting this documentary together? And again, from the perspective, you've been a soldier, you've been in combat.
Yeah.
So when you got back, what was that takeaway for you?
I think it was the morale. The people of Ukraine are tired.
Yeah.
They're worn out. They don't see a path. Honestly, here's what I heard from them, directly from them. They want to win this war. They will fight even if the U.S. abandons them, even if Russia keeps going. They are going to fight for their freedom, but they don't know if they're going to win. And that's a sobering thing to think about.
Yeah.
I remember many times we had a van driving all over Ukraine asking people, widows and orphans and refugees and soldiers. And I would ask people what's going on, tell me what's happening here. And our car would get stopped all the time. And we'd see people, police, checkpoints, literally taking men out of their cars and putting them into the army on the spot.
On the spot.
On the spot. I talked to this one woman. I was just out of the blue, began talking to this woman. She said her son had been taken by the police that morning. And he had a waiver, because if you're between the ages of 25 and 60, you have to be in the military, unless you have 3 children, and then you're exempt. And her son had a waiver, he had a heart condition, was stopped by the military. He showed him this waiver. They said, we don't believe your waiver. They took him to the hospital to do another EKG test to make sure. And then she said he's there with them right now, and I'm waiting to see what the results will be.
I didn't even know that.
Kind of plummet. A lot of men are missing,
Yeah.
so it's kind of weird, you know. It's kind of women everywhere. It's a very strange scenario.
It's a powerful, powerful insight into what's happening, and we don't get a very unvarnished vision of it at all. If you want to keep up with Stephen on social media, find out more about the film called What Does Freedom Cost? Please go to his guest page.